First of all, thank you for joining us at Lunch and Learn. So just to give you a brief overview as to what Lunch and Learn is, we've been running Lunch and Learn on and off for about 7 or 8 years now. We did before pre-COVID, if anyone remembers back that far, we did have an in-person Lunch and Learn where at some points we had up to 70 people in a room talking about marketing. And we would invite directors, marketing managers, anyone in marketing to come and basically discuss with us a particular topic. And today's topic is winter marketing strategies. But we basically pick a topic, we discuss it. We do some sort of presentation, which we'll kind of go through. We'll give you our insight into the topic. We take questions. If you want to write some questions in the chat, you can talk in the chat. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to say anything in the chat. But me and Bex are going to talk through this and give you kind of our insight into things. It's less of an education kind of lesson thing. It's more of this is what we do. These are our tips. It's our way of giving back to local businesses. And we've done it for years. We've kept it free whilst we're online. We may go back to in person at some point, but we shall see. We've just had someone else join, so welcome. So that's what Lunch and Learn is. A bit of an introduction into who I am, because there's quite a few people in the room today who I don't think I've ever spoken to be fair. So welcome. I'm Dave. I am the founder and director of 146. We're a digital agency based in Northampton, based on Malton Bar. You see our office behind us. Rebecca is not in the office today. She's working from home because we've got a big open plan office, and sometimes it's easier to have two people who are working on Lunch and Learn in two different buildings. So we don't have the pleasure of a separate meeting room here. So she's at home. She's been banished. But as I said, I'm Dave. I do a lot of strategy-based stuff and work with kind of new clients. I've got some existing clients I work with, but we tend to kind of integrate them into the team. And I have on with me today.
Hello, I'm Becca. I work in 146, obviously. I mostly do the marketing for us as a marketing agency, so our in-house marketing, as well as doing, I have a few clients that I do the marketing for as well. And I enjoy doing a lot of the training and putting these presentations together, doing some of the research for them, working with Dave to do this and bring you some free learning, because that's how I kind of got into marketing, and it's nice to pass on the knowledge and help out businesses where we can.
Absolutely. And as you can tell, the picture of Rebecca is not recent because she now has yellow hair. Thank you, Bex. As I said, this meeting is completely free. However, we do take donations, whether you go to their page direct or we've got a page as well. We'll email it through. If you wanted to contribute what would be a ticket fee of £1, £10, £20, £100, whatever you want. We don't check. It's a totally free event, but if you wanted to, you can. We do support Cynthia Spencer. So it's slightly out of date logo for them, because I think we're 2 years out of date with that logo. But if you want to jump on there, Just Giving, you can do, and just donate something. That'll be fab. So that is the wrong title, Bex. Would you believe? Have I got the wrong presentation in? No, I haven't. I'm going to skip past that title because
That's from last month.
That's from last month, yeah. We do have in the bottom left-hand corner winter marketing strategy. So I'm going to set the scene. Okay, I've put set the scene, Dave. It's a bit of a prompt for me. I thought we'd be a bit, a bit looser today, a bit more relaxed on our presentation. So we have probably one of the most important periods for businesses, especially retail. There's going to be businesses in the room that aren't retail, but again, may benefit from the winter period, from Christmas especially, being inclusive. It's not the only special date per se, or specific date within the winter period. There are others, of which is there's quite a few laid out in a blog that Rebecca's put together. But this particular period coming up, October through to December, is incredibly important to a lot of businesses, because this is when they make a lot of sales. Like I said, especially in the retail sector. We've just been down to a furniture company. They're a massive warehouse in Northamptonshire, Simply Furniture. We do a lot of social for them, and they're kind of gearing up for the dining period, the bedroom period, the indoor living period. This is where they make a lot of their sales, kind of October through to December, and then from April through to the summer period on the summer kind of rattanny stuff. So today I want to take you through, we might get onto some ideas, but I want to take you through what we do with our clients when it comes to when we approach these periods, how we strategize, what we look to do, and we're going to kind of lay out some very specifics as to what you guys can do if you wanted to plan for periods like this. And I would always recommend that you put a marketing strategy in plan for the entire year. So over the next couple of months, we are as a business starting to work with our clients to update their marketing strategies. And some situations just go to updating them. And we are, again, going to be looking at our marketing strategy and with the aim of it being ready in December to go out in January. If that's, that we work from January to December, typically. But if you have periods like the winter period coming up, or let's say, I don't want to specifically say it's just winter we're covering today. Let's say that your busy period is coming up towards the new budget season, if you're B2B, or if you're a local authority or something like that. Or if your busy period is the summer period, you want to make sure, first of all, that you're looking at building a strategy like this, and you can take what we recommend today and the tips we kind of give, and you can apply it to a yearly strategy or something quite specific, want to narrow down into, right, we're approaching Christmas or we're approaching summer. You want to be looking at it well in advance, and that's the absolute key. And that's why we're doing this today. Us doing this webinar today is almost probably a month or two too late, because you need to have this almost ready now to start going at now. But there's no reason if you start to put these kind of things in motion today, over the next week or two, then depending on when your kind of calendar sits and when your busy periods are, when you're kind of planning for, there's no reason why this can't still be relevant. But I just wanted to set the scene, because what we're going through today can be applied to a yearly strategy. The same stuff applies whether it's over a course of a year or whether you're planning specifically for a set period. In this instance, we're approaching winter. There's loads of things in winter we could look at. Rebecca, could you name a few? Because you did the blog.
Yeah, so even Black Friday for the UK is a bit. It doesn't come from the whole Thanksgiving period, which obviously it comes from that in the States. But it has become a really important part of not just retail, but even services will provide discounts and opportunities and stuff for Black Friday. You've got Black Friday. So then you've got Cyber Monday, which is an opportunity for, even if you're not doing any sales, just using the hashtags and the atmosphere, the kind of like the talk that's happening around Cyber Monday. If you're an IT company, you could jump on that. We've got Diwali. We've got depending on whether you're selling something or whether it's relevant. Remembrance Sundays on the same day. Not obviously you shouldn't be capitalizing on things that are important to people like that, but if it's relevant and it's part of what your business is, it's an opportunity to talk to people about what's going on in your business or show people what things mean to you. So there's so many things coming up over the next few months that are opportunities for sales, but also opportunities to open up conversations. So you don't have to you should never use Remembrance Sunday as an opportunity for a sale, but as an opportunity to start conversations with people on your platforms or to sell stuff that's relevant. Then there's so many of them coming up. And you can be kind of looking at this as an autumn-winter period. So for many people who are leading up to the big sale, like all the shopping and stuff, people are already getting ready for that. Shopping for the festivals, they're shopping for their Christmas presents or their Hanukkah gifts. And we've also got Valentine's Day, which feels like is so far away, but sometimes, and one of the best things about having a strategy is that it means you can plan in advance. If you get into February and decide then you've got an idea of something that you want to do for Valentine's Day, you've only got 2 weeks to pull it off. If you put it in part of your winter strategy and you start organising it now, you've got months to make sure it's done and then done properly. So the point of the strategy is to like get the whole holistic view of everything. And Dave's going to go into that in more detail, but it gives you time to plan and execute your plans. So that's why, so in the blog, we've put together quite a long list of things that you might want to get involved in over the next few months, things that you've probably heard of, stuff you haven't heard of. But also it just gives you the opportunity to plan.
I think the key thing, Bex, and I appreciate you mentioning this, the key thing here is it doesn't just have to be about sales. There's going to be businesses in the room and us as well. We are not a business that benefits from a Christmas period. We don't sell more because Christmas is coming up. We don't sell more because of Halloween. We don't sell more because of Cyber Monday or Black Friday. That's not us. And there's a lot of businesses out there that won't benefit from this period. However, you can still take elements of what we're going to talk about today. You should still be planning regardless, but you can still take elements of what we're going to be talking about today specifically to apply certain times of the year, like Christmas, like Halloween, to produce certain types of content. And by doing some of the stuff that we're kind of putting out there, you will more than likely you will be better prepared for it, but you will also produce better content. You will produce better campaigns because you are more prepared for it, because it's more thought through. So I've always said with Lunch and Learn, if we can get anywhere from like 5 people to 50 people in a Lunch and Learn, and I always say if everyone can take away one thing from Lunch and Learn each time we do it, that's our job done. And I know that some of the stuff we're going to say today, people might know some of it. It might be a reminder to some of it. Some people might think, yeah, this isn't going to work for me because Christmas, winter isn't really a specifically busy time. Well, it might be that the lead up to summer is or another period. There's going to be something in here that hopefully you guys can learn from. So yeah, let's move into it.
You've also got your worksheets. Hopefully everyone's got the emails with the reminder emails today. We have a link to download the worksheets. So if you wanted to follow along, or you want to just download them later and go through it, we thought it might be helpful to give you kind of a template on some of the stuff we're going to talk about, because I think it helps with like demystifying what we're talking about if you can see it in front of you at the same time, and while you're thinking about it, make some notes or something, but don't feel like you have to.
So yeah, Bex has sent over some worksheets. They're just there as a bit of a prompt. You can work through them if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. But thanks for putting that together, Bex. So there is a process we go through with every client and with ourselves when it comes to putting a strategy in place. And you can call it, we the first thing we've said here is we set SMART goals, and I'll go through what they are in a second. People in the room may know, but it might be that you just set specific aims. What's your aim in it? With everything we do, we set SMART goals. So SMART goals for us, when you break down the letters, it's SMART. S is specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is realistic, and T is timely, so or time specific. Now, I had to Google that again because I always forget what the A is. But essentially what it means is, as a first port of call in everything that you're doing, whether you're planning for a specific date, whether you're planning for the year ahead, you set a goal. Because if you don't have a goal, what are you trying to achieve? We have specific goals every single year that we apply to things like Lunch and Learn. So how many people we want to get in on Lunch and Learn? We're specific about it. We make sure it's measurable. So we measure it every month. We make sure it's attainable. We make sure it's realistic. We're not asking for 200 people in there with a budget of, let's say, £500 on ad spend. And we make sure that from a timing perspective, it makes sense and works as well. So we set ourselves SMART goals. We do that across many elements of our marketing. And this is something you guys should do as well. As I said, you need to break it down into specific campaigns, whether it's a specific campaign based on a day. Let's say you want to raise awareness of a particular product or service on a particular day, then set a goal, set a realistic SMART goal, or just set a SMART goal, because realistic is within there. You get the gist. The very first thing you need to be doing is setting goals, because if you don't set a goal, you don't know whether it's worked. And then when you come through to, so at a certain point throughout the presentation, we're going to talk about looking back on the previous year or looking back on a previous campaign to analyze how has something gone. If you haven't set goals, how are you going to measure anything? And your goals should be across many elements of your marketing. So it could be across a campaign altogether. It could be a financial goal. You might look at search-based goals, so SEO-based goals. You might look at email marketing-based goals. So make sure you have specific goals and targets that you want to work towards. Otherwise, it's almost pointless planning. The next thing we do is we build a buyer persona or a customer persona. We look at who our target audience is, and we essentially, you can draw a stick man or a stick woman, and you start to think about what type of person is this? What type of person would typically buy from us, whether we are B2B, whether we're B2C, because it's always going to come down to a person. Even if it's B2B, yes, it's a company. You can say what type of company would specifically buy from us, but you still want to actually target a person as well. So think about the type of company and the type of person that is physically going to buy from you, and that's where we look at target audiences. And again, you break that down into the specific platform, the specific campaign you're working on. So let's say it is maybe one of the things you're looking to improve on. One of the goals is to improve your search by tenfold, which would result in so many more visitors to the site. Have a think about the type of visitors you want to attract. And that will in turn help you, by building a buyer persona, help you think about what type of search traffic am I trying to attract here? What type of keywords am I trying to attract here? If you're looking at a specific campaign that's going to rely on advertising, then this is more important than ever, building a buyer persona. What type of demographic, if you're using Facebook ads, what is the type of the demographic that this buyer would sit within? For you to then target via Facebook ads, because as we know with Facebook ads, with Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, it targets people based on age, gender, certain demographic, where they're based, interests, behaviors, all that kind of stuff. So when you're building a buyer persona, you need to think about, if this is the person I'm targeting, what do they like? What are their interests? How do they behave? Because when you start to think about all this kind of stuff, you can then decide, okay, well, if I've got someone or a company that acts in this way, they expose themselves to these kind of websites, they are this type of person, then off the back of that, you can use that information to decide on where you're going to target them. What type of marketing platforms and strategies are you going to use? Are you going to utilize Google Ads? Are you going to utilize a remarketing campaign? Are you going to utilize email marketing, a telesales campaign, a print-based campaign? Are you going to get over to exhibitions? How are you going to work this? Because every single company is different, and every single time of the year kind of period is different. You might want to be targeting different people, different companies, a different target audience at different times of the year. So it's really important to build a buyer persona, and it doesn't matter whether it's for your yearly strategy. It doesn't matter whether you're targeting someone specifically for, let's say, Black Friday. Black Friday, typically your buyer persona could change. You might be targeting people who are more sensitive to prices, because Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's all about price. Your buyer is generally going to be price sensitive. So whereas if you're selling products, let's say, your marketing strategy might be to push a certain set of products throughout a year, which might be more high-end products. Well, they're not going to work as much unless they do come down in price on, let's say, Black Friday. So your buyer persona can change dependent on the product, the service, and the time of the year. So bear that in mind. You might need multiple buyer personas, but they're really important to put some kind of consideration behind, whether it's a full-blown campaign or whether it's a specific piece of content that you're looking to push out on a specific date. You might not have to spend as much time thinking about that, but by considering who is going to see it, who's going to act on it, who's going to engage with that specific type of content, even for a split second, it might change the type of content that you're putting out. So it is important to consider that.
Yeah.
Even in passing.
Can I add, so popping back as well to the SMART goals, for those of you who are doing this, and this is like the first time you're looking at this kind of strategy, the reason why you've kind of chosen winter is because obviously it's coming up, but it's also, if you're running a small or medium business and you're a solo marketer and you're the owner of the business and you don't have a heap of time to do 10 marketing strategies for all the different things that are coming up, just choose one thing that you want to achieve and turn that into your SMART goal. Because just starting small with one goal, that if this time last year, you didn't have any goals written down, then you're already achieving more by just having one SMART goal. You've got that. And then the thing that I found really hard to get my head around when I first got into marketing was, surely there are so many different buyer personas. How can you choose them? And how can you know everything about them? And I don't have time to do all of them. And basically, what you're looking at for your first buyer persona, if you just do one, is you're looking at your absolute ideal customer. If you don't get them at the moment, that's fine. You're not looking for a customer you've already got. You're looking for your ideal customer, the person who would buy from you. So if you're a small business and you're targeting, but you sell products, and you're thinking about the ideal person who wants to buy those products, it's going to be the person who's got the money in the business you're targeting. So it doesn't matter if they're the frontline help desk staff are the ones currently looking at your social posts, but they're not the ones with the money. What you want is the people in the finance department looking at your social posts. So, or if you're a retail shop and you're targeting your ideal customer because you've got to sell kind of high-end goods, your ideal customer probably isn't an 18 to 20-year-old because they don't really have that much money. Your ideal demographic is going to be more in their 40s. So let's say, look at your social website, look at where you're posting your social stuff. And are you actually posting on the platform where your ideal customers are? Or are you posting on the platforms where currently you think people are, but they don't really buy anything? So your ideal persona, and what I've done in the worksheet, I've literally called them Ms. Ideal. I've put things like, do they have kids and dogs and or family and friends? Because if your ideal customer is someone who buys stuff for their dogs because you have a dog accessory shop, then you want that to be there. And that means that then you actually start marketing towards your ideal customer. So that's something that I wish someone had told me anyway years ago about buyer persona. It is your ideal customer. And if you just start with one this year, that's fine. Just start with one. Find the ideal person who'd love your shop or your business to be calling from all the time and work out where they are. I did forget to put LinkedIn on the buyer persona. But don't worry, that's okay. Like, just add it on if that's where you're going to find them. It's not restricted to the template. Think outside the box a bit as well, but that's just there to help you answer some questions. Give them a name. And then every time you do anything on socials, think, would this person like that? Would they be interested in this? And that's why you do the buyer personas.
Dave would be a good name if you want to call him Dave. Yeah, just recapping slightly, and then we'll move on from this because we've pressed on this quite a bit. Like I said, the whole point of a buyer persona is to help you target where people are. We have so many customers. We have companies that say to us all the time, "Oh yeah, I've been running a Facebook campaign, to target such and such, and to sell, raise awareness for such and such. And I'm like, why would anyone on Facebook buy that or want to engage with that? Because it's not really the place. And we find companies do stuff for the sake of it, and by just building a bar persona, it takes them in different areas. You don't have to do everything. Hone in on where your target audience is. Simple. Right, let's move on. SWOT it. So this is an interesting one, and quite important, I would say. So
yeah, it's one of my favorite tools.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone in the room has heard of a SWOT. So it basically covers strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It's something that is covered quite a lot when people do a business plan per se. They look at the strengths of the business, the weaknesses, the opportunities available to them, and the threats that might take them down. But it can be applied to marketing. It can be applied to specific marketing campaigns, because it helps you identify, first of all, areas of focus. So products, services that you're particularly strong at. It might help you identify markets or potential campaigns that are opportunities to you. But it also helps you identify what needs improvement. So where you potentially have weaknesses. If you've got weaknesses, for example, from a communication perspective or from a customer experience perspective, then which is a big thing right now, customer experience, then it helps you to address them, because it's all good and well pushing a campaign out there, but if you don't know if it's something that there's actually an opportunity for, if you don't know if it's something that you're particularly strong at, then it might fall on deaf ears. If there's something within that campaign, let's say the customer experience, which is a bit of a weakness for you guys, if you've identified that, then regardless of the campaign going out, it might do more harm than good. So you have to think about your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And people do overlook this, but it's really important to think about that, because it does help you identify where future campaigns might be best positioned, but also it helps identify what might be threatening that particular campaign, what might be a particular weakness, and what you can improve on. Because if you don't identify those, if you don't improve on those campaigns may bomb for reasons that you aren't aware of because you haven't carried out that research. Would you agree, Rebecca?
Yeah, definitely. It certainly can help you take a step back and look at what you're currently doing as well, and thinking about whether that is something that you're good at. Is this a strength of yours? Or actually, if you look at all of your strengths, is the thing you're currently doing or have done in the past maybe not as good an opportunity as something else that you could be doing instead? And so I'm looking at the threats of like external, of other people like competitors, but also about yourself. Like, if you've got an online store, but your weakness is that your website's not very good, and the threat is that your competitor has a really good website, then that's something that you can look at and plan for, because then, even if it's just you can't get a new website right now, but you're going to need to get one because you've identified it as a threat. Or if you're currently doing a lot of online socials, but your strength is actually that you've got a fantastic location for your shop or your business, and you could really actually see an opportunity with people coming to you more, then that could change your whole strategy for your ads and be more location-based adverts for people who are looking for something actively to go to. So that's why it's a really good tool to look at.
Just kind of concluding on the SWOT side of things, this can be done from a general business perspective, and that's quite useful. It can also be done on a campaign level as well. Find out where your strengths and weaknesses are on specific campaigns, where opportunities are, around a specific campaign. It can be done around products as well, services. And And like I said, very useful to do, because it does help you identify where your focus should be. Because, so for example, as a company, we have 4 key elements of our company. We've got social media management, we've got web design, we've got ad campaigns, we've got search. There's a couple of things that fit in underneath that. But we don't market every single one of those elements in the same way, and we don't market every single one of those elements consistently. So things like a SWOT would allow us to identify which areas are better place for us to market, to push, and again, which ones that we, are probably best place not to. So it does help you analyze. It's worth doing a SWOT analysis for on a campaign level, on a product or service level as well, as opposed to a company level, because that helps.
Certainly,
I think, like user experience as well.
yes, especially it's important for all aspects, but especially if you're paying for something like adverts, because that really helps you identify that if your adverts aren't working, let's say you're not getting very much value back, then do a SWOT and see if actually you're maybe putting your money in the wrong area.
Okay. Next one. What are your competitors doing? So this is number 4. What are your competitors? This is absolutely crucial. And we get so many companies come to us. Oh, hang on. I've skipped. We get so many companies come to us that say to us, I don't know what we should be doing, or we haven't got time to do it. But typically on this side, I don't know what we should be doing when it comes to the kind of content they produce, the campaigns they run. And the first thing I always say is I pick this out. What are your competitors doing? First of all, why aren't you monitoring them? But if you are, what are they doing? And there's various ways that you can identify this. There's tools that you can use, or there's just the simple way of just monitor them on social, on their websites, monitor what they do, what they put out. But this is absolutely crucial, because although you don't want to copy, typically speaking, what they are doing for a reason. Either they're trying something, they're testing and measuring it, or they've done it before and it works. And you don't have to copy it, but you can potentially mimic it. You can look at what they're doing and say, let's do something similar. Let's take the concept of it and let's apply it in a totally different way. Right, how can you identify what your competitors are doing? Well, it depends on the platform, really. So if we're looking at social media, so the first thing I would do, if you're running a campaign, or you're gearing up towards a campaign, whether it's a Christmas campaign or whatever, have a look at what your competitors did. Take 3, take 5, 5. Take 3 or 5. Scour back through as to what they did last year on socials, what content they produced. Did they have specific offers? Did they run specific campaigns? So that's the first thing you can do. And that can quite simply be done by scouring their socials. Again, you can have a look at what social platforms they actually use for certain campaigns and at certain times of the year, because they will have used potentially LinkedIn for a different type of campaign, Facebook and Instagram for a different type of campaign. Have a look at what they're doing. From an ads perspective, you might be able to, first of all, if you visit their website, you might get revisited by some of their remarketing ads. Whether that's on social or Google. You can also use the Facebook ad library, if you Google that, to have a look at what type of ads they're putting out. Really simple tool. You just put their page in there. It will tell you what ads they're putting out. It won't tell you budget. It won't necessarily tell you targeting. But if you do have an ad come up from a competitor, you can click. I can't remember exactly where it is. It's either 3 dots or somewhere on Facebook. There's going to be a click to say, why am I being targeted? Click on that and Facebook will tell you generally why you're being targeted. It might be that you're of a certain age range. It might be you're of a certain gender. It might be that you have certain interests, and they will give you some kind of insight as to why that is. So monitor what they're doing. The Facebook ad library will again give you details of the ads they're putting out and whether they're putting ads out, because it might not be. If you're looking at this from a search perspective, maybe you are running maybe part of your strategy for the year is to increase your organic traffic to the website. And you might be looking at certain keywords. You might want to run a health check on a competitor. You might want to look at the keywords that your competitors are ranking for and try and compete with those, because what they're ranking for, if they're getting traffic on certain things, it's going to be relevant to you. If you are running a link building campaign, then you might want to look at the links that are going through to your competitors and try and target those kind of sites and run links through to your sites. So there's loads of free tools out there that will allow you to do that. There's things like Ahrefs, Moz, SEMrush. There's quite a few. They've got free and premium options. SEMrush, sorry. There you go. Thank you, Bex. Just putting them into the comments. There's tons of them out there. We use Ahrefs at the moment. We're a paid version because we run search campaigns. We have used Moz in the past. Moz is very good as well. Moz was a little bit more expensive. We wanted to bounce over to a different type of campaign. They were putting the prices up. So it's really important to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing. One of the other things you can do, certainly from an email perspective, from a customer experience perspective, because that is key. That's part of your marketing. How do you operate with your customers? How do they feel when you're working with them? And that's something that should be improved on. Because if you make them feel great, then they're going to come back. But one of the best things you can do there is just experience their product or service. Maybe buy something from them. I know it sounds stupid, but buy a minor product from them and see how you get on with it. Maybe sign up to something, see how you get on with things. Maybe from a Gmail email, or I don't know, just monitor them in a certain way. But competitor analysis is absolutely key.
Yeah, if you're looking at the worksheet, I added in a couple of bits like the socials, marketing, and services or product, just so that you're writing stuff down. Some people find it easier to write stuff like this down, and then you've got it in one place. I've only given you 2 spaces because from the perspective of the blog and the webinar, we're looking at small sorts of things, and Dave's obviously getting very technical if you're looking at stuff from the search perspective, and all of that is fine. From just like a basic overall strategy perspective, you might find that the people who you think are your competitors aren't even actually really your competitors once you start looking into it. So like Dave said, like using a tool that you might think of your competitors as very local businesses, but then when you look up on SEMrush and it tells you that actually online your main competitors are these 3 websites. And so that would change your whole perspective and might change your marketing strategy completely. So again, like the SWOT, very important to have a look at this and get to know your competitors and have a look at their websites, and as Dave said, like buy something from them and see about their follow-up emails that they send you or something like that. But also, if you look at them and you realize that you're doing a lot better, they're less of a threat than they were beforehand, and then maybe you could step it up a notch and do some more intense marketing or do some competitors that are bigger. But yeah, so you can also add in a SWOT for each one of your competitors. So although you do a SWOT yourself, you can add in a SWOT as part of your competitor analysis and look at their strengths and their weaknesses and see how it matches up to what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Thanks, Bex. Similarly to analysing your competitors, you should be looking at what happened last year or last period, last campaign, whether it's a different campaign, whether it's a similar campaign at the same time. How did it work? What can be improved on? What went well? What went badly? You should be analysing all of this information because it's this information, it's the information from your competitors and what they're doing that will help you decide where you put stuff, what you do, the context of things, the content you produce, whether that's specific to a Black Friday campaign, a Christmas campaign, or whatever that might be, or whether it's specific to a marketing, a period of marketing over a set, period of time. But you should be analysing what happened last year. Make sure you're tracking stuff. In a second, we've got test and measure. I'm going to come into that, so I won't dwell on it too much now. But by tracking stuff, you can find out what worked well last year. You can find out what didn't work well last year and chuck in the odd wild card. You don't have to be rigid every single campaign, every single period. You can loosen the reins a little bit. Yes, you need stuff that's tried and tested. There's no reason why you can't add new things into the mix and add in some wild cards, add in stuff you've just thought of. Nothing is No idea is a bad idea, as we say it. Some ideas just might not be used. But add in the odd wild card. If there's something that you think, oh, I think this might work really well, then chuck it in, see how it works. Next year, analyze it. How did that work? Not so great. Drop it or improve on it. But the key thing is to analyze not just your competitors, but analyze what happened on previous campaigns, whether that's a previous campaign around a set date, around a particular promotion, or whether it's over the year, what happened last year versus what's happened this year. What have we improved on? What hasn't worked? And again, just come through tracking.
Sorry, I thought you'd stop talking.
That's right.
If you can't find, or if you're struggling with your analytics from last year, you can always choose a different kind of goal to track, like how many sales did you do? How many walk-ins did you have of people just coming into the business? Like, just anything you can track. You don't have to get really, really into in-depth analytics if you don't have access to them. So, or you don't know where to find them, or you're struggling to interpret them. You can always ask us to help on that. But
yeah, absolutely.
Just choosing something from last year that you understand, and then trying to see if you can improve on it this year using all these tools. And then next year you'll do the same. But you won't know if you're improving if you don't look back at previous years or campaigns or weeks, that kind of thing.
On that note, I'm going to jump forward a couple of slides because I put this at the end, test and measure, but actually we've started talking about it. You need to be analysing what you've been doing, and you need to test stuff, what we call A/B testing, test different campaigns against one another. If you've got £1,000 budget per month for a specific campaign, break it down into sub campaigns and test different visuals, test different types of content, test different audiences, calls to action, test what you can. Don't spread yourself too thin, but do test whatever you can. And you might, over a few years, test different things. But by testing and then by measuring, make sure you've got the measuring in place, whether that's Google Analytics, whether that's social analytics, whether that's your email analytics from MailChimp, whether that's Ahrefs tracking your search terms. For every client we have on board, they get access to, it's actually a third-party piece of software, which allows us to integrate everything, whether it's Google Ads, SEO, analytics, social, email campaign, even call campaigns into one piece of software so they can see everything, in, I say it's live, it's about a day behind, but it's generally pretty live. And they can compare and contrast, one thing against another. So do that, whatever portal you have available to you, even if it's Google Sheets, do what you can do. Some of our clients, we run off the back of this analytical software, and then we further drill down into things in Google Sheets, because that's what's needed sometimes. And we track every single lead that comes through and the improvements we make over time. That's what you need to be doing. Test and measure every campaign. And then off the back of all of this, you can then decide on the specifics. You can decide on what campaign you're going to run, because you know what's worked last year. We've got a client that runs a specific type of campaign. It's a charity-based campaign every single year because they know it works from a PR perspective, but they just improve it over time. They add little bits into it and they analyze, how do we get on with that? How many companies do we have starting up? So you can decide on what you do, what content you churn out. With content, you need to be a bit careful, because what worked last year, if you repeat it in the same context or a bit too close to what it was last year, it might be too repetitive. It might not work on that basis. So certain things that you want to kind of steer clear of, in a sense, in terms of similarities. You can think about what platforms have worked, what platforms work for your competitors, what platform haven't worked for your competitors. You can start to analyze all of this information, and you can decide on the real specifics and start to drill down on what are we putting out there, when are we putting it out there, where are we putting it, to who are we putting it, because you've done your persona. And that is where your campaigns get better and they work better. And because you are testing and measuring, that's when you realize, yes, it has worked, no, it hasn't worked. And if it hasn't worked, as marketeers, stuff doesn't work for us all the time. We never go to people and say, we never go to customers and say, yeah, we'll guarantee this will work, because marketing is test and measure. That's what it is. We can do all of this. We can do all of this stuff. We can do a SWOT. We can do put a buyer persona in place. We can look at our competitors. We can look at what happened last year. We can test and measure. We can do all of that, and it eliminates the risk to a point. But things will always be, you kind of always hunting in the unknown with marketing, in a sense. But all of this helps gain better results over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Come towards the end. I'm going to jump on to. I've got, what are your top tips, Dave? Normally I put the top tips down, but I hate death by PowerPoint. So I tend to be quite loose, and I discuss things, because that way you can listen. You don't want to read it. You don't want to hear me say everything that I talk about. So yeah. So what are your top tips, Dave? Here we go. Number one, pre-plan. Pre-plan everything. If you're looking at marketing for next year, you should be thinking about it now and starting to get things in motion to make sure it's documented. And documentation is key. It doesn't have to be a 10, 15, 20 page document. A page of bullet points, sectioning things down, can be enough in certain situations. Sometimes all you have to do is go through and rehash things, rejig things, edit things, reassess. But pre-plan is key. For the winter stuff, if winter is an important period for you, you should be having that, certainly getting it into place now, if not having already had that in place. Okay, so pre-plan is the first thing. Test new stuff, test wildcards. You don't have to be doing the same stuff every time. By looking at what has worked for you in the past, looking at what your competitors are doing, you can get things in place that hopefully will perform. But if you've got ideas, don't be afraid of using them. Don't be afraid of chucking things out there. Even if you think they're stupid, nothing is stupid. There's no bad idea. Coming back to what I mentioned a moment ago, one of the most important things, if you're going to take anything away from this today, one of the most important things you can do is follow your competition. Find out what they're doing. Find out specific to you what they're doing. Okay, what are they doing that's specific to you? Whether it's, if you're looking to improve on search, whether it's a campaign that's going to rely on ads, whether it's organic traffic and the type of content they're putting out. Find out what they're doing and do that, but better. We talk, whenever we do search-based campaigns, SEO campaigns, we talk to clients about producing content that's best on the web. We do our competitor research. We look at what our competitors have done to rank in the position they're ranking on. Why are they there? What have they done to get there? Is it because they've got a shed load of backlinks? Is it because their content is just unbelievable? And we make sure the content we put out is better than theirs. It's best on the web. That's what you guys should be doing as well. Follow your competition. And I'll tell you what, a lot of this planning for specific campaigns, whether it's a Christmas campaign or your marketing in general, will become so much easier. And then finally, play to your strengths. Play to your strengths. Identify what your strengths are and play to them. If that's a particular product or service, play to it. But also identify your weaknesses and improve them. Because in a lot of circumstances, weaknesses will involve things like customer experience. How are your customers finding the experience from start to finish, whether it's through a marketing process or whether it's through your sales process? All of that matters. It has to matter. Because if there is a weakness in that, they're not going to come back. Or you're going to be, you're looking at complaints, you're looking at refunds, you're looking at all of that side of things. You have to look at where there are weaknesses in the business as well, but play to your strengths. Bex, we've got 5 minutes left. Would you like to add to anything?
Yeah, so I'd say my tip would be to try not to get overwhelmed. There's a lot you can add into a strategy, and especially if you like Google marketing strategies. If you're a massive company with 10 people in a marketing team and you have a strategy team as part of that, yeah, they could be massive. But just pick one thing to start off with. If this is the first time you're kind of attempting this, just pick one thing. Just pick something that you want to improve and use that as your goal. And every time you find yourself going down a rabbit hole, just make a note and say, I'll do that next year, or I'll do that next week, or I'll do that in the next campaign, so that you don't end up getting sidetracked from what you're trying to achieve. And I know we also said that as part of the webinar, we kind of go into some content ideas. Dave has skipped over the look for seasonal stuff in the interest of time, which is fine. If you go on the blog, there's a list of like a load of festivities and the celebrations and stuff that are happening over the next few months, that are opportunities to engage with your audience, like from Halloween. So, for example, one of our clients, we're going to use Halloween being the same month as Cybersecurity Month, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, to make some themed posts and bring the awareness out and use the Halloween season to just make it a little bit more engaging and a little bit more interesting. Because we wanted to kind of combine it and think of how we can make cybersecurity a little bit more interesting, basically, and eye-catching for people to look at. So, although we're not, they're not selling necessarily anything out of that, but they do cybersecurity packages and stuff. But we're using the season to get a message across. And obviously you've got Cyber Monday, Small Business Saturday. You don't necessarily, if you're not a small business, but you want to shout out small businesses, then you could do that as your way of engaging with people. So there's lots of ways you can use the upcoming season and the increase in awareness people have about as consumers at this time to get your messages out there and to hopefully increase your sales or achieve any other SMART goals that you've set.
Thanks, Bex. Just a final comment from me on that and about making these small improvements. I've got a business coach and he helps us improve what we're doing here. And he always says, make those 1% changes. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Make those 1% changes, 1% tweaks. But all of this today will help you make those 1% changes, make those 1% tweaks, and make what you're doing a lot easier. Because if you're overwhelmed, not having a plan is going to make you more overwhelmed. So I hope today's been useful. We do these every month. What is the next topic, Bex?
It is about getting engagement on Instagram. We're going to be trying to achieve the impossible and get engagement on Instagram, despite how difficult it's making it for people.
That's 26th of October. I'll be leading that one. You're not here, are you?
I'm on holiday.
So please sign up to that one. You will get an email about it if it's of interest. But I want to thank you, everyone, for being here today.